Hey guys, Abby Stafford here from Abacus Solutions Financial Coaching, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Definitely branching out, taking a leap of faith here. I'm hoping to start posting tutorials and other types of videos in the upcoming weeks. But this first video tonight, which I'm also joined here by my partner in crime, Buster Boy, this first video tonight is going to be my backstory, which if you've been following my blog since I started it last summer, I do have a blog post about my personal finance story on there, but wanted to share it in video format just to give everybody just a little more information on me and why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about it. So this story starts all the way back in 2004. When I had graduated from graduate school and was a newly minted public accounting employee. Hadn't passed the CPA exam yet, but that was to come in the next couple years. I was still living at home with my parents. I bought my first car, paid for it, paid it off in the first 6 months because I was still living at home. And my cousin, one of my older cousins, female cousin, gave me a book by David Bach, Smart Women Finish Rich. And reading that book just kind of set me on the right track for doing things correctly with my money. I started to put money into the 401k at my company as soon as I was eligible. I saved up an emergency fund in a savings account. Like I said, I paid my car off within the first 6 months of having it, and I started to put money away for a down payment on a house. So things were, plugging along great. I ended up moving out, lived in an apartment for a couple years with a roommate, split the expenses, so I was still able to save. Bought my first house in 2009. It was a little tight the first couple months, but I actually qualified for the first-time homebuyer credit that year and ended up getting the $8,000 credit, which paid for my impact windows and doors that I put in after I bought the house. So after an initial hiccup moving into the house, things normalized pretty quickly, and it was within my means to purchase. So fast forward to 2011, still living in the same house, still working pretty much the same financial plan. I had switched jobs, still, making a good living, and decided to take Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University through my church. One of my sisters had taken it a few years before, and highly recommended it. So went through that, and was very similar to a lot of similar concepts to what I had read in Smart Women Finish Rich all those years before. Just helped me to get a little more motivated to really flesh out my 3 to 6 months emergency fund. At this point, I was back to being debt-free other than my house, which is in a different baby step, if you know the Ramsey baby steps. So was working towards building up that emergency fund. Did have a little minor hiccup, had to replace my air conditioning unit in that spring. And because I had the emergency fund already started, it was more of an annoyance than anything else, and kept on, putting money away month by month. So moving on into 2012, my trusty Jetta that I had bought all the way back in 2005 was starting to give me brake problems. And I knew that it was getting time to, look for a new car. And so I started researching it. Now, backing up a couple steps, my Jetta was a diesel. At the time, I was commuting 25 miles one way to work when I bought it. It got great gas mileage. And, according to the guy that sold it to me, he said, oh, this engine will last forever. It'll last way longer than a normal standard engine. What you paid a little extra for on the diesel, you'll make up for in gas mileage and the length, the life of the engine. I really liked the gas mileage, and I was still driving 16 miles one way to work. Buster, get down. And so I kind of wanted to stay with a diesel. but I test drove, a newer Jetta, and it was just so plain looking. And I'm a girl. I want a nice looking car in the color that I want, and everything else that sounds totally girly when you're car shopping. So the new Jettas just weren't really appealing to me. So what did I start looking at? Other brands that also make diesel models. And one of those brands is a BMW. So I'm like, ooh, BMWs, they make a 335 in a diesel. Maybe I can find one pre-owned, and that way, like, I'm not paying the full sticker price. If I can find one that, only has so many miles on it and get a deal on it, what's the big deal? So that's what I ended up doing. I found one that was like 9 months old, had been driven by a factory executive, and it had never been titled before, so I was the only name on the title. It did save me a considerable amount of money, but I still financed it, and I went back to having a car payment for the first time in like 6.5 years. And let me tell you, that first month, making that car payment again, it hurt. After not having a car payment for so long, going back to having one, it was just like, this really sucks. So I was like, oh man, what did I get myself into? Not that I couldn't afford it, because I could. But I just resolved to pay it off as fast as possible. Well, about 4-5 months later, I made another big decision. And he's making a lot of noise in the room right here. I got Buster. I got Buster in July of 2012, and I have never regretted that decision. I love my Buster boy. But, trying to house train a puppy when you work 16 miles away from your house is not the easiest thing in the world. And so I'd kind of been thinking about moving a little closer to work anyways, and just getting Buster was kind of like another motivation to do that. It had been 3 years pretty much to the month since I had bought my house. That was the requirement for not having to pay back the first-time home buyer credit. So I was in the clear on that. Actually hooked up with the real estate agent that I had used to purchase the house, told her that I wanted to list it, and so she got it listed for me. Meanwhile, I started looking closer to work. And, the one area, I had kind of grown up in that area. My grandparents had lived close by, and so it's a nice area. And, kind of started looking to see, what was in my price range, what could I afford. I had an idea in my head of what I thought I could afford based on my, my current mortgage amount and what I thought I could get for my older house. And I actually found a house that was in my price range and that checked all the boxes for me and closed. My offer was accepted, and I closed on the house before I ever sold my old house. So I actually floated 2 mortgage payments for about 4 or 5 months in late 2012. And in addition to that, the house I bought needed some renovations. I say needed. There wasn't anything that I couldn't move in because of, but some of it was a 1950s era house, so there was still the original bathrooms, and the flooring in the living area had been updated, but it was from the 80s or early 90s. So I decided to redo the master bathroom and redo the flooring in the living area before I moved in. And instead of rolling those renovations into a little bit bigger of a mortgage, I decided to cash flow them. And by cash flow, I mean drain my savings and put the rest on, no interest for 18-month credit cards, store credit cards. So all of this was set in motion in the fall of 2012. And for, the first, like I said, those first 4 or 5 months were tight because I had 2 mortgage payments. And then finally, I closed on my old house in January of 2013, and, that resolved that. But backing up 2 previous months, I would say that, the first really difficult thing that I went through was I got an email notification from my insurance agents that my homeowner's insurance company had realized after looking through my inspection reports that the electric panel that I had in my house was known to be a fire hazard. And if I did not replace it within 30 days, they were going to cancel my homeowner's insurance policy. So of course, you know, you hear that, that they're threatening to cancel you, and you start freaking out. Who am I going to hire to do this? I got to find an electrician. You know, what is this going to cost me? Everything. So fortunately, you know, someone recommended an electrician to me. He was able to come in and do the job, but you know, $800 later, I had a new electrical panel in my house, and you know, that was definitely an unexpected expense, especially on top of the credit card payments I was now making and the double mortgage payments I was making. So that was kind of the first snag in my grand plan of moving to the new house. So the bottom really started falling out in June of 2013. 2 different days, 4 weeks apart, my house was broken into. And fortunately, I was not home either time. Buster Boy was. And fortunately, they didn't touch him. Again, fortunately, I say that, you know, really nothing super valuable was taken. They got an old flat screen TV. They did get my iPad, another small laptop that I had. But most of what they got was sentimental jewelry, stuff that had been given to me by my parents and my grandparents. And they just tore my house apart. And, you know, for anybody that's ever gone through that, you just feel violated. You don't wish it on anybody. You know, the second time they smashed in my back sliding glass door. And so of course that one happened on a Friday. So for the weekend, I had a gaping hole in the back of my house, which, you know, I had to replace the door. Had to go buy a set of French doors from Home Depot. Definitely wasn't putting the same kind of slider in because at this point I thought it was a security hazard. So I had to hire somebody to put the door in for me. I had to pay for the doors. You know, I had just paid off the Home Depot card from when I was paying for the renovations when I first bought the house. And here I am loading it back up with, you know, $1,100 set of French doors. So at this point, you know, I'm starting to get really stressed about my finances. I mean, I'd kind of been stressed about it, you know, for like 9 months. Just, you know, the constant like worrying about making the payments and keeping track of like, you know, how many months left do I have on the interest-free financing and, you know, everything that goes into that. The next month, I discovered that I had some termites that had come back to the house. There were some areas of the house that had been spot treated for termites before I bought it, but apparently they had returned. So I also then had to hire a pest control guy to treat my house for termites. I didn't tent, I did the boric acid treatment, which was almost the same price, but I didn't have to worry about throwing everything out in the fridge and stuff like that. So anyways, long story short, 2013 was kind of a roller coaster of a year. I felt strapped financially the entire year, just that I couldn't catch my breath financially. Every month, getting the budget to work was, you know, master manipulation and maneuvering of amounts. And I make good money. Like, it wasn't like I wasn't bringing home a decent paycheck. It's just that I felt completely overwhelmed with the credit card payments, and, you know, my mortgage payment went up a little bit because I went from a 30-year to a 15-year. I had to set aside money every month for my taxes and insurance because I was no longer escrowing with the bank. And I definitely didn't want to be caught shorthanded at the end of the year when I had to pay my property tax bill. So yeah, I mean, adulting life was kind of getting sucky at this point. And I kind of, you know, it was taking its toll on me, on my health. In the fall of 2013, I started experiencing heart palpitations. I'd work out in the morning, and then I would get cleaned up and I'd go to work, and I'd get there and I'd be sitting at my desk and my heart would just be racing and racing for like, you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes at a time. And this was hours after I finished working out, and I couldn't understand why this was happening to me. So, I mean, on top of all of the financial problems, I also started seeing a cardiologist. I wore a heart monitor for a month. I saw a more specialized cardiologist trying to figure out exactly what the heck was going on with me. And, all these tests later and all these, you know, I was on medication and they recognized that I was having these episodes, but they couldn't pinpoint what was causing it. And so finally I'm like, look, I know I'm stressed out. I'm over caffeinating myself. I decided to cut the caffeine, and that did help. It brought the palpitations down. It reduced them, and but I know it was the stress. It was just the worrying and the anxiety and just the constant mind racing about how am I going to get out of this mess that I created. And I can't pinpoint exactly when it hit me, but I realized that I had lost sight of the principles that I had been using, since 2004. I gone through Financial Peace University, and I had basically thrown all those principles right out the window when I saw a shiny new object in a new house that I wanted. And even before that, when I wanted the new car. I mean, I just threw the principles out the window and I put myself in this situation. So I, decided that I was going to get rid of the debt. I was going to pay the credit cards off. I was going to do whatever it took to get this, these debts behind me. And I was never going to go back into debt again. I just, I knew I could do it without it. I knew I could be disciplined. I knew I had to sharpen the pencil on my budget. And that's what I did. I was just thinking about this earlier tonight, but, I pay for a monthly CrossFit membership, and it's not cheap. And there was a period of time during 2014 where, I went from the unlimited monthly plan to the 3 times a week plan just to save, $50 on my membership. And, there was even a time, and this coincided, I was having some back problems, but I froze my membership because not only I couldn't use it because I was having problems with my back, but I couldn't really afford it either. And, as much as it sucked to press pause on something that I get so much enjoyment out of, I knew that I needed to do it. And so I did it. I cut back. I started grocery shopping at Aldi. I, cut any kind of spending on clothes, any kind of frivolous spending just went out the window. I didn't travel. I didn't, take, other than visiting family, I really wasn't going on any fancy trips. I just literally buckled down for, a year and a half. And I just put my nose to the grindstone and just scrimped and saved. And, it was hard, yeah, but I mean, I still, was having a good time. I was, in general happy during that time. And I tell you what, by the end of 2014, things were looking up. I felt like, December of 2014, I felt like I had turned a corner. I finally was able to put a good amount of money together at the end of the year, and I did get a year-end bonus, so that definitely helped. But I put some money together and I paid down a huge chunk of the debts. I paid off several of the cards so that they were gone. Didn't have to worry about those monthly payments anymore. And then I think it was at the end of January of 2015, I was approached by an acquaintance that was looking for a place to live. And, someone at my church had mentioned that I might be interested in taking in a roommate. And, the timing was just perfect because, I hadn't really thought about it, but I was interested. And so a friend moved in with me for most of 2015, paid me some rent money every month, and split the utilities with me. And I tell you what, just having someone to share the expenses with made all the difference in the world. I started paying off my debts at the end of 2014, but by August 2015, I paid my car off. I paid it off about, let me think, paid it about a year and a half off early. So, getting rid of that car payment, let me tell you, it was such a good feeling. just having stressed over that payment and all those other card payments, for the previous several years, not having those monthly payments in my budget every month. It was just so freeing. It was just a good feeling. And just, if you're on, wherever you're at on your journey, just know that even when they seem hopeless or you seem overwhelmed, you seem like it's never going to end, you're never going to get out of the situation that you're in, just know that there's hope. And you can always make a plan, and you can always do what you got to do, little steps at a time. Take one item and focus on that one item and throw all of your effort and all of your energy at that one item for the near term. And once you accomplish that, then take what you've learned in that task and throw all of your effort and all of your energy at the next item, and just keep working down your list. And that's what worked in my life, and that's what I coach other people on now too. And I know, because I've been there, I know how overwhelming it can be and how anxious you can be. And I hope that by helping others in this area, because I've been there and I know how it feels, but I'm also on the other side, hopefully I bring that experience to them and comfort and assurance that you can do this. You can do this. You will get through this. It may not be as quick as you want it to be, and it might take a lot of work. You might have to get outside of your comfort zone and either tighten up on your expenses or figure out ways to supplement your income to make it work. But you can do it. And I'm a firm believer in, if you set your mind to it, you can do it. And, in sharing this story with you today, maybe it's not the same as yours. Maybe you disagree with it. Maybe it inspires you. I hope it inspires you. But just know that there is a way out, and there is a way through, and there's a way to success. And, if you're interested in hearing more, if you want to ask me questions, let me know. Drop a comment below. I'll post a link to my website. You can sign up for more information. Check me out on Facebook. Get a hold of me. I love helping people in this area, and I'd love to help you too. So if you like this video, give me a like. Have a good weekend.